Hey guys, welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio, and I am super excited to be here on this beautiful Wednesday morning. All right. So how are you doing? Let me know how your day is going. Let me know what your plans are for the day. And I know it's a Wednesday, but I don't think I don't think you need to have a specific day to have plans for yourself or your friends or with your friends and family as well. All right. I mean, sure, normally people don't go out in the middle of the week, but you can always make an exception when you're stressed out, when when things have been particularly stressful at work. That is completely understandable. All right, now you're tuned into Relax Radio with me, Sarah, and I'm here to make sure that I keep you informed with the very latest conversation about what happens not just here in the United Kingdom, but in fact all over the world as well. All right, so don't forget to share your thoughts, don't forget to share your opinions with me, because I would absolutely love to hear what you have to say, what you're going to be sharing with us as well. Okay, so don't be shy to text me or call me on 078 to share your thoughts, share your opinions, because I want to know what your thoughts are with regard to what we're going to be talking about. All right. And before we actually head into the conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that you can in fact be a part of the show. All you need to do is just text me or call me on the number 078 But also don't forget to share your thoughts and share your opinions with us as well. All right. Now you can like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and actually make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, because that way you can actually make sure that you're always informed and updated about the very latest that happens all over the world. All right, and when you download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, what that essentially means is that you can listen in from anywhere in the world at any time of the day while you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. All right, so that is absolutely amazing. That is absolutely amazing news for you as well. All right, and now I want to very quickly talk to you about how homes in the United Kingdom could actually move to hydrogen based electricity by 2030, and are planning to make sure that 3 million homes in the United Kingdom could actually have hydrogen based electricity when they for cooking and for heating, right? And I think this is absolutely amazing. Now we'll talk about the pros and cons of it as well, but I think for the time being, especially with regard to taking it, or rather trying to take steps to essentially cut down carbon emissions, to essentially have much more greener, sustainable methods of living, of lifestyle, of energy, of electricity. I think this is an absolutely amazing move, right? Because what we're essentially doing is we're promoting new kinds of technology. We're also creating new jobs. We're also increasing our GDP, but also we're going with something that is much more sustainable and much more greener, not just for the environment, but even for ourselves, right? Even for all of the people in the world. And that's why we're going to be having this conversation. All right, now the government has actually hopes, or the government hopes to attract at least 4 billion in terms of investment to the hydrogen economy by 2030, right? And this is under plans to produce the equivalent of enough hydrogen gas to replace, or rather enough hydrogen to replace fossil fuel gas for heating and cooking in about 3 million households in the United Kingdom. Now this is just for 2030, right? However, by 2050 they hope to create about 13 billion in terms of investment, and also 100,000 new jobs by 2050 in terms of this hydrogen based economy, right? It's called the hydrogen economy. And by the end of this decade, which is by 2030, they're planning to create about 900 million pounds in terms of investment, and 9,000 in terms of high quality jobs by the end of this decade, right? And that is absolutely amazing news, because now we're going for what you would refer to as a UK-wide hydrogen economy, right? And essentially you're now going to be using these things you're now going to be using hydrogen for electricity in your home, right? Now this strategy document actually lays out its efforts to attract investment in 5 gigawatts of hydrogen production by 2030, right? And this means that could mostly power heavy industry as well as transport, and even up to 70,000 homes. So that is pretty amazing, considering the fact that we're now trying to move towards much more greener and sustainable things in terms of the environment, right? So basically, this research, and the report that was published as well, essentially suggests that hydrogen could actually cover up to about 20 to 35% of the United Kingdom's energy consumption by 2050. All right. So by 2050, you basically have 35% of the United Kingdom's energy consumption that is covered by hydrogen, right? Which means that it will, in fact, provide a much more cleaner alternative to oil and gas and energy intensive industries like power and transport, right? So another thing that they're actually doing is that it's proposing this series of industry consultations to help establish a subsidy system to support large hydrogen projects to decarbonize all of these areas that basically cannot run on electricity. All right. So you're going to decarbonize these areas, and you're going to have a lot of consultations to essentially make sure that they can be hydrogen based. And I think that's absolutely amazing news. All right. Now, make sure you stay tuned, because we're going to head into a small break. And after that, we will be back to continue more of this conversation. But until then, make sure you stay tuned. Welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio. And I'm super, super excited to be here because we're having a very important and interesting conversation, I might add, with regard to what is happening in the United Kingdom. Right now, we're talking about how homes in the United Kingdom could essentially be heated with hydrogen by 2030, right? And that is absolutely amazing news, because this is essentially going to mean that a lot of people in the United Kingdom are going to have much more cleaner alternatives to oil and gas, which is what is presently being used, and which also happens to have a lot of environmental impacts because of how because of the energy production, how it's emitted, and in terms of carbon emissions as well. All right. So that is what we are talking about. All right. And before we actually head into the conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that you can, in fact, be a part of the show. All you need to do is just text me or call me on 078-52-473-473. Share your thoughts, share your opinions, because that would be absolutely amazing. I would love to hear what you have to say with regard to the United Kingdom having homes that could potentially be heated by hydrogen by 2030, right? Do you think this is the way to go? Do you think that change needs to be taken? Do you think that we're on the correct path? What kind of other changes do you think we need to make. So all of those questions you have, you can actually text them to me, or you can call me and tell me about it, because all you need to do is just text me or call me on 078 to share your thoughts, share your opinions. Don't be shy, because I'm not going to bite. But also don't forget to go download our app, right, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. You can actually make sure that you're always informed and updated about the very latest in terms of what is happening in the world if you go download our app, right? It also means that you can tune into the conversation from anywhere you are in the world, and that is absolutely amazing. So don't forget to do that, and don't forget to be a part of this show. Now, something else that you can actually do is you can actually make sure that you go like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, because that's going to help you be informed about, sports, science, health, technology, environment, entertainment, gossip, finance, whatever it is that you want to be informed about. We're always going to make sure that you're informed, okay? So make sure to stay tuned, because I would love to keep you company and make sure you're always updated about the very latest that happens, all right? And now let's actually very quickly head into a conversation, because we're going to be talking about how the United Kingdom actually is going to have hydrogen-based, a hydrogen economy that will essentially help homes in the United Kingdom with heating and cooking, especially in the near future. Right now, something that we need to talk about is how much we have polluted our environment, right? And essentially, to move forward and make sure that we are protecting our environment, what is currently happening is the government is now come up with, or rather the government is now coming up with alternatives to the present policies they have that emit a lot of carbon, that has a lot of carbon emissions, that has a lot of greenhouse gas emissions as well. Okay, now the plan, now even though this plan is in place and this report has been published, this plan still remains dogged by the uncertainty over how the government will determine a fair subsidy for the multi-billion pound projects, right? And also whether these costs will be shouldered through household bills or by the treasury, right? So even though we have these plans in place, there is still questions on how exactly is this going to work. What kind of subsidies are we going to have, and how will the cost be shouldered? Is it through the treasury? Is it through household bills? So what exactly are the details on it, right? So there's still so much more left for us to, or for the government to actually figure out and clarify for the rest of the population. Right now, the government has actually promised more clarity after an industry consultation that is going to happen later this year. Okay, now Matthew Fell, who happens to be the chief United Kingdom policy director at the CBI, actually stated that the strategy included important steps for the economy-wide hydrogen sector, right? Which means that this hydrogen-based economy might actually be beneficial. It's definitely much cleaner. It's definitely much sustainable, and we've already gotten enough statistics. We've already figured out that it's going to create a certain amount of jobs that will essentially help all of these people to get jobs, but to move forward, and also to have much cleaner energy running through their homes. All right. So something else that he said is that even though all of this is in place, to truly capitalize on these large scale economic opportunities and unlock private sector finance needed, firms will actually now be looking for the government to provide detailed policies and standards for hydrogen production and application, right? Because ultimately, even though all of these plans are in place, even though there are so many things that they plan to do, ultimately it is up to the government to make sure that you set out detailed policies, you set out detailed standards, so that people who are manufacturing this will have the needed policies and standards for hydrogen production and application. Right now, hydrogen projects under this development will also include green hydrogen schemes, which basically extract hydrogen from water, right? And what it basically does is that it leaves only oxygen as a byproduct. And given the fact that we need oxygen, and oxygen is definitely something that we all need, obviously, to breathe, for plants, basically everyone needs it, right? So that when it leaves oxygen as a byproduct, that will actually make sure that the environment isn't harmed, right? Because this will be referred to as blue hydrogen, or rather, there is a specific thing called blue hydrogen, which essentially extracts hydrogen from fossil fuel gas before trapping the greenhouse gas emissions that are essentially left behind, right? However, even though all of these things are in place, a study that was actually conducted last week by these academics actually showed that that blue hydrogen could actually be up to 20% worse for the climate in terms of in comparison to fossil gas, right? And this is actually owing to the emissions that escape during its production multiplied by the amount of gas that is required to make the equivalent amount of energy from hydrogen, right? So blue hydrogen might not essentially be the most cleanest thing to go with. However, that is just these are just in the works right now. All right, so make sure you stay tuned, because we're going to head into a small break, and after that we will be back to to keep talking more about this. So until then, make sure you stay tuned.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at your net worth, you got to start and say, well, what do I want my net worth to be, so that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 a week, if I save that every week, and you can go online and use calculators online. I don't have to teach you the maths behind it, but you can say, okay, and if I get a 3% return and I put this away for how long will it take to reach my goal? And that's called just this basic cash flow projection calculations. And it's what we use in financial planning all the time. What we say to clients is we say, okay, what is your goal? What is your objective? Where do you want to go to? And we discuss that in a lot of detail and over most of the meeting. And then the rest of it is saying, okay, in your exact circumstances, with your risk profile, with how you feel about investments